So next we're going to move on to his little friend, James Lincoln. And in our case pack, let's take a look at James Lincoln real quick. He's been friends with Andrew ever since he started. You know, his life was miserable because he too was a transfer. But Andrew took him under his wing and really helped him out. Now remember, not everything James says is going to be used by us or introduced by us. He does say quite a few things that we don't want to talk about if we don't have to. You know, he does have some anger issues. The kids and some of the adults are kind of afraid of him. He's smokes like a chimney, you know, things like that. Also talks about his interaction with the cop as maybe Andrew has, you know, brought this on himself. So we're not going to bring that about, but we will, as always, be prepared to defend it. It talks about Tanisha, and he kind of talks, one of the things that we're going to pull out of here is what he was able to hear and see. Now in class we talked about maybe not talking so much about what he could see because maybe he didn't have that good of sight on what was actually happening, you know, as far as what came out of Andrew's pocket and things. But he does say very vividly two things that he heard. One is the very loud pop of Andrew's wrist when Officer Bates broke it. The second, Officer Bates and Officer Major, in their depositions, seem to say, no, I didn't say anything about maybe he was going too far. I didn't admit to that on my partner. But James is going to say, I heard you tell him by name to take it easy. So let's move on to James Lincoln's direct examination. Can you please state your name and age for the jury? My name's James Lincoln. I'm 16 years old. James, are you a student at Street Law High School? Yes, sir. How do you know Andrew Madison? We became friends when I started at Street Law High. Did you transfer to Street Law High as well? Yeah, from a school in Louisiana. That's why everyone would call me Bama, you know, trying to say that I was a backwoods kind of person. How did you and Andrew become friends? And at this point, we're going to try to start painting Andrew as a very, very humble person. So let's take a look. About halfway through freshman year, Andrew started being nice to me and sticking up for me when people would give me a hard time. I was pretty miserable until I met Andrew. He's been a true friend. Again, a true friend, that's just us breaking up his narration and guiding him along. Yeah, at first I really thought he pitied me, but that's not the case. Once I took the time to really get to know him, it was clear what a good person he was. Remember, that's one of our themes that we really want to get out there. Once I took the time to get to know him, rather than just take him for what everyone said he was or what the outside might appear, he was a great guy. When the cop tackled Andrew outside of the school, where were your hands? Just like Andrew, my hands were in my pocket to get my ID out too. But because I'm kind of skinny, that cop didn't even look twice at me. Because you're skinny? Yep, his eyes were all over Andrew. He had Andrew pegged from the minute he got out of the car. Now, we don't talk much about the accident through his eyes just yet. But one thing we may have skipped over here is, like I said, he does offer a little bit about why their book bags were inside and things like that can maybe help us. But we'll fine-tune that right before the trial if we need to, or if we feel that it's necessary. Now, what did you see when Andrew reached into his pocket? We ask him what he sees, but we're not asking him to be like, what did you see when he got his hand in his pocket? What did you observe? So let's go ahead and make that correction. What did you observe when Andrew reached into his pocket? Because the different wording does make it different. Instead of saying, what did you see as far as the moment when his hand went into his pocket, it's kind of, what did you observe at that point in time? Not necessarily that event, but around you. All of a sudden, one cop just grabs Andrew's arm and started yelling, "This one tried to stab me!" And he twisted Andrew's arm behind him. I could see blood, and I heard Andrew's wrist break. It had to be it. There was a loud popping sound when the officer twisted his arm behind Andrew. They threw him to the ground, and I could just hear Andrew screaming. What was the other cop doing? Again, a little bit of good cop, bad cop here. You know, he just kind of had his hand lightly on my arm, just making sure I didn't go anywhere. But that was really, it was no point. Andrew was hurt pretty bad, and the other cop had his knee in Andrew's back. Did you hear any other correspondence between the two cops? And again, we've played off of his hearing once. I heard this loud pop. Yeah, the one cop that had a hold of my arm was telling the other, "Take it easy, Kevin." Kevin? Yup. Thank you, I have no further questions, Your Honor. So what do we do right there? We're painting James as a person who really, not only did he pay attention while he was there, he was observant. And if he heard the pop, and the wrist was in fact broken, that made him right. And if he was able to hear the wrist break whenever the officer was a couple feet away messing with Andrew, surely he was able to hear Officer Major tell Officer Bates, or as this says, "Take it easy, Kevin." Surely he was able to hear that too. So that may hold quite a bit of weight with the jury. Now, that's the end of James. Like I said, we left a lot of his stuff out. We don't want to introduce that voluntarily.